Today, let's go over the top 20 questions for the Solo: A Star Wars Story trailer. This is Mike Zero here once again. If you guys are new here to the channel, do make sure to subscribe to see future Star Wars content. Now, as you all know, today, during Good Morning America, we were introduced to the very first full official teaser trailer for the Han Solo movie, and quite honestly, it looks very promising. It's like a thrill ride to me. Now, I want to go over the top 20 questions that we actually gathered from this teaser trailer. Starting off with the first one is, of course, why is Beckett putting together a crew? Now, I will say one thing when it comes to that scene is that when Beckett essentially says that I'm putting together a crew, are you in? And Han Solo says, not yet. It really did make one wonder exactly why is he putting together a team? And it did actually give me a lot of thoughts that in itself is very much similar to Rogue One, a Star Wars story where you have this group, they're trying to complete a certain task. We're not exactly sure what their intention really is or what they're really going for. And that's the biggest question when it comes to the character of Beckett. Why is he putting together a team? And then exactly what makes him that individual in place as to the one that's actually the one responsible for putting this team together. Number two is that why is the gap in front of the Falcon filled in? And what will cause it to vanish? So in case you guys missed this, in the trailer, you will notice that there are quite a number of different designs with the Millennium Falcon in comparison to the original trilogy and in the sequel trilogy. Now, in the originals and the sequels, we have the front of the Falcon with a gap. In this movie, the gap is filled, so the front looks completely different. What exactly causes the gap is the biggest question of all, and exactly what causes the redesign of the Falcon. It could very well be that maybe it goes through some kind of damage in this story, and that may very well explain as to why it is how it is in Star Wars: A New Hope, and so on and so forth. Now, the third question is, why does the new villain, or what does the new villain want from Han Solo and crew, I should say? Now, there's that real iconic shot where you have Han Solo's blaster in his holster on his leg, and you do see this new villain in the distance, and that is, by the way, the new main villain. We're not quite sure exactly who he is or what he's called. We'll get to that later, but he's definitely a mixture of a stormtrooper, a bounty hunter, and a tribe type of thing. That's the main inspirational pieces of this character. So that's a big question. Exactly what does this new villain want with Han and crew? Moving on to number 4, why is the Empire chasing the Falcon in that scene? So in that popular scene, it's probably one of the most visually impressive scenes in the trailer is when the Falcon is going through that storm. So why is the Empire chasing the Falcon? Did they steal something? Are they trying to get away from something? We'll learn as we probably will be getting a brand new trailer in March or maybe even April. Now moving on to the 5th question, alright? What is that large creature and what could it possibly be? Now that creature that we see inside of that storm, and yes, it's inside of the storm, many are speculating that maybe it causes the storm or maybe it doesn't and it's just in it. Perhaps it's a Rathar. Now, I was looking at this thing real close, and the tentacles really do mimic that of a Rathar that we actually got a first glimpse at in Star Wars: The Force Awakens on board of that freighter. Now, moving on to number 6 here, alright, how does Han meet Lando? We didn't really get a real good idea as to how Han will meet Lando in the trailer, or this teaser trailer, I should say, so that's a big question for sure. Exactly how will he meet Lando, and will they do things differently in this movie perhaps where they have already known each other for quite some time, or are they going to start the film off with these two characters not knowing each other at all? Number 7, okay, what's the significance of the train? Now, this actually comes from the Super Bowl tease that's not included in the full teaser trailer, but what's the actual purpose of this train? What is it transporting? Now, in the very front, you will notice that there are a set of blasters on a rail system. It's like a double-decker train, and you do see one on the bottom and one on the top. Now, instantly, I thought back to the video game Star Wars: Shadows of the Empire when you're going up against IG-88. Now, we have heard that Ron Howard is cherry picking from Legends material and the video games as well, and I believe that that was, of course, a direct nod to Shadows of the Empire. But exactly what is the significance of that train? That's a big question for sure. So moving on to number 8 here, why is Malak and the range troopers chasing Han and Kyra in the land speeder? So there's a new character named Malak. He's going to have a brand new speeder. It's a big, hunky, junky speeder that essentially chases Han Solo in that famous chase scene that we actually have been going over for quite a couple of months now with all the behind-the-scenes photographs and footage. So my biggest question, okay, is exactly why is Malak and crew chasing Han Solo and Kyra? Moving on to number 9, how does Han meet Beckett? Now, we actually saw in the leaked LEGO sets that Beckett and Han Solo are in Imperial outfits. So it could very well be that maybe Beckett was a part of the Flight Academy before Han got kicked out, or maybe even both Han and Beckett get kicked out for having a mind of their own. And that's exactly how they sort of know each other. Maybe they were just strangers, they entered the Flight Academy, and maybe, perhaps they are the ones in like a double TIE fighter type of thing where they know each other very, very well. Now moving on to number 10. Does the Falcon belong to Lando first? I know that this is a big question for sure because in one of the shots we do see Lando essentially piloting the Falcon and Han Solo's in the back, essentially witnessing him doing this. So it does make one wonder, will Lando own the Falcon before Han? I believe so. I definitely do believe so. I think that given that the dice was hinted in this trailer, and also given that the dice may very well play a role in how Han wins the Falcon, I think that yes, Lando definitely does own the Falcon first, and that's why we do see him piloting it in front of Han Solo. Number 11. What are those mysterious symbols on those structures? Now, those structures on the planet Corellia, alright, it has these weird symbols. Something that's very hard to decipher. I'm not quite sure what it is, but there's definitely a lot of significance to them that we will be learning about later in the coming months once we get more trailers and information and interviews, and especially when we get to go ahead and see the full movie in May. Number 12 is what exploded? Now, I know that there's a big explosion in this teaser trailer, and it left a lot of people wondering exactly what was in there. Was it an intentional explosion? Was it an accident? We don't know. Could it be a seismic charge? That's a big question for sure. I was thinking the same thing. I know a lot of you guys were asking me, Mike, what was that explosion? And there's something about it that made me think, what if they are seismic charges? It's possible. Who knows? Moving on to number 13. What's the mysterious ship Han is flying? Now, this is a question that's directly connected to the last question that we just went over. We're not quite sure. Now, this ship could very well be transporting materials, very important materials that belong to the Empire, and that's why you do have those weird-looking ships that are following Han Solo, trying to obtain whatever Han Solo was trying to either A, take away or transport, and ends up exploding. It could very well be a whole entire ship that transports explosives, for all we know. Moving on to number 14, alright? Why does Han want to join the Empire? Now sure, we do know that he wants to become a pilot, but exactly, what's the specific reason as to why he wants to join the Empire to become a pilot? Wouldn't there be another alternative? Perhaps not. It may very well be that Han lives in the state of the galaxy where he has no choice, that this is the way to go to live your, dream to become a pilot. And this is a great foot in the door, essentially, to becoming a pilot. He wants to become the best pilot in the galaxy. This is the start, and this is the way to go. So that's the vibe that I got from the trailer. Moving on to number 15, what's the name of the new TIE fighter? Now, you will notice that there's a piloting seat on the left-hand portion of this ship, and all the way on the right there's a dual cannon. So the whole other side of this thing is a dual cannon. So I don't think it's a TIE bomber per se. I think it's just a different take on a standard TIE fighter, where you have the whole entire piloting area all the way shifted over, and on the other side you have a dual cannon if you look real close there. Number 16, who is the new villain? Now, we spoke about this lightly in the beginning of this video. Who is the new villain? Well, we know he's a mixture of a stormtrooper, a bounty hunter, and that tribe type of thing. So, it really does make a fan, think to themselves, exactly, where did this character come from? Who is he leading? He has a whole entire crew, right? A whole entire crew in the back of him when he's going up against Han Solo and crew. So, I'm sure that there's a lot of history to this character that we will be learning in the movie. He is the main villain, but that's a big question for sure. Who is the new villain? Let me know what you guys have to say about that below in the comments. Number 17, will Kyra and Han have a romance? Now, this is one of the big questions that you guys were asking me, and I know that we would like to see a romance, something very much similar to that of The Empire Strikes Back between Han and Leia, though I don't think we'll get something to that degree, and that's fine. But I do think that we're going to get a slight romance there between both Kyra and Han Solo. I got a hint of that in the very beginning, where they're both in the speeder, speeding it up and essentially getting chased by Moloch. And at the very end of this teaser, where she states that she knows exactly who he really is. I think that's a little hint, or a little bit of a hint there that a romance will build from start to finish of this movie. And, the fate of this character is unknown. Whether she lives or dies, we don't know. But we'll have to wait and see. Moving on to number 18, where is Boba Fett? Now, Boba Fett is in this movie. Director Ron Howard actually teased him on Twitter many months ago. He took a photograph and there was a silhouette of Boba Fett in the background. Where is Boba Fett? Now, I think that maybe he's a part of this crew being led by this new villain, or maybe he's perhaps a rogue crew member of that crew that this new villain is leading. Now, that's a possibility, if you had to ask me. And on to number 19, who is Thandie Newton's character? Now, I was starting to think that maybe she could be Rey Sloane. There's been a lot of rumors out there that she could be this or that. I think Rey Sloane would be the perfect choice. In case you guys have no idea who she is, I would highly suggest that you guys go ahead and look up that character. Very interesting character and a lot of ties with a lot of the novels out there, such as Aftermath. So go ahead and check that out. Now, number 20, the last question. Exactly why is Han kicked out of the Flight Academy? Now, we do know that it's because he had a mind of his own. But what's the exact action? What's the exact thing that Han does that gets him kicked out of the Flight Academy? Is it overconfidence? Is it a cocky attitude? Is it something that he maybe does to the ship that he's flying? Does he damage it perhaps? We don't know. Overall, guys, those are my top 20 questions for the Han Solo Star Wars movie. If you guys have more questions, list them below in the comments section. And if you guys did enjoy the content for today, do make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you all so very much for the kind support, and I'll catch you guys next time.
Thank you.